The kids wouldn't speak to anyone. Until one rainy night, the Black Maid sang to them in the dark. Damian Kessler, a powerful CEO in Los Angeles haunted by the loss of his wife, believes that protecting his children means isolating them from the world. Lyra, who has hearing loss, and Noah, who has impaired vision, carry their own silent struggles. Until Selena Marlowe, a humble maid with an unexpected past, crosses paths with the family and begins to transform their lives from the inside out. Amid revealed secrets, social prejudices, and difficult choices, what seemed like just a working relationship becomes a journey of faith, science, and love. But when everything starts to fall apart under society's watchful eyes, one decision changes everyone's fate forever. Before we begin this emotional story, I want to speak directly to you who are here right now. Tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? It's always special to know how far our stories are reaching. And if you enjoy intense stories filled with love, resilience, and moments that touch the heart, make sure to subscribe to the channel. That way, you won't miss any of the upcoming stories, and you'll also help this project grow and reach more people like you. Let's go on this journey together. The night in Los Angeles had been dry and hot, typical for late summer, and the mansion on the hills looked like it was floating above the city's sea of lights. The wind rustled the palm trees in the garden when, suddenly, a muffled pop ran through the power grid. Everything went black. The silence was so immediate you could hear the ticking of the old clock in the living room and the quickened breathing of startled people. Selena Marlowe was in the kitchen, putting away crystal glasses on a high shelf. A black woman with golden brown skin and a subtle glow, her body curvy and strong from years of hard work. She wore a simple, spotless uniform. Her long, straight, dark brown hair with golden highlights fell like a veil down her back. Her light brown eyes, alert, moved first to the window, then to the hallway leading to the main stairs. She didn't hesitate. She reached into her apron pocket and pulled out a small flashlight she kept there out of habit. The beam cut through the darkness, revealing the cold marble of the hall and the muted shine of expensive paintings. Lyra, Noah, stay where you are. Damian Kessler's voice echoed down the hallway. Tall, broad-shouldered, about 6'3", fair-skinned, with dark brown hair streaked with gray that gave him a look of authority, and steel blue eyes that rarely showed emotion. He had come from the study, phone raised, but the signal was out, and the device was now just a useless rectangle. He wore a dress shirt unbuttoned at the neck, sleeves rolled up, tension visible in his clenched jaw. Lyra was 9, wearing lilac pajamas with silver stars. Her wavy blonde hair touched her shoulders, and her large green eyes flickered between fear and curiosity. For a few moments, she didn't catch her father's words. Moderate hearing loss turned spoken words into air, especially in confusing environments. Her hearing aids, recently adjusted, were on her bedroom dresser. She hadn't yet found the courage to wear them at night. She frowned, trying to guess what was happening by the vibrations on the floor. Noah, 6 years old, with straight light brown hair falling over his forehead and vivid blue eyes, was already on the second step of the staircase when the house went dark. His progressive low vision turned the dim light into a blur. He reached for the handrail with his tiny, trembling hand. "It's too dark. I can't see," he murmured, and the sound felt too small for the size of the danger. Selena crossed the hall like someone who knew the path without needing light. First, she pointed the flashlight at the stairs, lighting the steps from the base up so as not to blind Noah. The beam created soft shadows, revealing the polished wood and elegant curve of the banister. "Noah, sweetheart, hold my hand tight. Step by step," she said, her voice calm and warm, a tone he recognized. She extended her hand, and he instinctively reached for it, as if he'd been looking for it all along. Damien took 2 steps forward, but stopped. He saw the confidence in Selena's posture, the way she angled the flashlight slightly downward, how she took the lead without being intrusive. His eyes narrowed, not in suspicion, but in a silent plea for everything to go well. "Watch the 4th step. It's a little higher," he warned, wanting to move closer, but holding back the impulse. Something in the way Selena guided the boy made him pause. At the top of the hallway, Lyra had stepped out of her room, drawn by the beam of light. She watched the movement but didn't understand her father's command. Without sound, everything felt like a movie, with no subtitles. Selena noticed her, lifted her face and motioned broadly with her free hand, bringing the flashlight up to her own chin. She turned fully toward Lyra, softly lighting her own face. "Lyra, look at me," she said, clearly articulating each syllable. "It's okay. Stay where you are. Breathe." The girl focused on Selena's lips, reading each word like a secret being revealed. "I'm coming to you," Selena continued, pointing to her own feet and making the universal gesture for wait. Lyra nodded, her chest rising and falling, fear settling into a shy trust. Selena turned back to Noah. "Let's go together, champ." "Count with me." And off they went, counting. 1, 2, 3. Noah repeated softly, anchoring himself to the rhythm of the count and the hand that guided him. At the 4th step, the height difference nearly made him stumble, but Selena's firm grip kept him steady. "That's it! Perfect!" she encouraged. When they reached the landing, she turned the flashlight away to avoid blinding him and gave him a quick hug, just enough to warm, not to hold him back. Damien exhaled, as if only now remembering to breathe. "Thank you," he said, but the word came out quietly, almost like a thought. He looked up at Lyra and saw her standing still, eyes fixed on Selena, waiting for the next signal. Selena climbed the stairs slowly, keeping the flashlight far enough for Lyra to still read her lips. As she got closer, she kneeled to Lyra's height. The feel of the carpet under her knee, the light scent of lavender coming from the room, Lyra's hair glowing like a wheat field in the dim light. Every detail seemed to work together to bring calm. "Lyra," she said, looking directly at her. "We'll go down slowly. I'll be right next to you. When I say now, you take a step, no rush." She made a hand gesture in sync with the word and waited for confirmation. Lyra mouthed it back. "Now." 1 step. "Now." Another step. The girl bit her lower lip, but the anxiety faded as the method proved safe. 3, 4, 5 steps, and solid ground. In the hall, the darkness no longer felt hostile. Selena turned the flashlight toward a side shelf, grabbed a second portable light, and handed it to Lyra, guiding the girl's hand to the button. "You turn it on?" she mouthed, pointing. Lyra pressed it. A soft glow lit up beside her, and she smiled like she'd gotten a piece of the world back. "I'm going to get the big flashlights from the generator," Selena said, already turning toward the storage under the stairs. Damien watched her go, realizing something that shook him inside. Everything she did came from a kind, practical care that saw needs before fear. There was no show. There was presence. "Dad, my light is just like Selena's," Lyra said proudly, touching the flashlight to her chest like a trophy. Damien understood half from watching her lips, half because he had learned to listen to the silence around his daughter. He knelt beside her. "It is. And you turned it on by yourself." He ran his hand through her hair with a tenderness he rarely had time to show. Noah, now feeling safe, walked in short steps to the couch. "I made it down without falling," he announced, his voice light. Selena returned with 2 larger flashlights and a small box of emergency candles. She placed one light on the sideboard, the other on the floor, aimed at the ceiling, spreading a soft glow through the room. She lit 2 tall candles and secured them in heavy holders, away from curtains and books. Damien, unable to hide it, looked at Selena like he was seeing something rare and precious. "How did you know where the big flashlights were?" he asked, trying to sound casual. "I organized the emergency kit last week," she replied. "Practiced the path with my eyes closed. If the power failed, the kids needed quick light." He nodded. "You did that? For them?" Selena looked at Lyra and Noah, now side by side, glowing in a warm halo. "For all of us," she said simply, returning a look that held both respect and strength. The house slowly began to regain its sounds. The wind outside, a distant car on the road, the children's now steadier breathing. Damien grabbed a blanket and placed it over Lyra's legs, and with a nearly imperceptible hesitation, adjusted Noah's as well. The gesture felt too small in comparison to what he had just witnessed. He cleared his throat. "Selena, you were flawless." She looked away. "I just did what needed to be done." "Not everyone would know how," he replied, and for the first time his voice lost its corporate rigidity, making room for something human. Lyra rested her head on her father's shoulder. "When I look at Selena's mouth, I understand everything." Selena smiled, her brown eyes shining. "Tomorrow, we'll practice with your hearing aids in the dark, okay? That way, next time, you'll be able to hear even more." Lyra nodded with quiet enthusiasm. Noah raised his hand. "I want to practice too, so I can see better in the dark." "You will," Selena said, placing her hand over his. "And I'll be here, step by step." Damien watched the scene, struck not just by Selena's efficiency, but by the natural way she made the impossible manageable. In that moment, while the city below flickered like an inverted sky, he realized something had shifted in the invisible architecture of the house. Maybe it was a heart starting to beat in the right rhythm again. Maybe it was the beginning of a rescue. The morning after the blackout, routine returned to the Kessler mansion. Sunlight streamed through the tall windows, casting a golden hue on the marble floor. Damien, already dressed in his immaculate dark blue suit, was having coffee while reading business headlines on his tablet. The children were getting ready for school in the upscale neighborhood, and Selena, attentive as always, was organizing their backpacks on the granite counter, placing each lunchbox with care. Lyra, her wavy blonde hair down, was adjusting her new hearing aids. They were discreet, similar in tone to her skin, but the metallic shine revealed the still adapting technology. She frowned as she tested the volume. The sound of the cutlery on the table echoed too loudly. Beside her, Noah was adjusting his light jacket over his small body. His blue eyes sought his sister with quiet complicity. "I'll stay with you during recess," he said softly, his face calm, but carrying the anxiety of someone who knows what the shadowed playground means for his fragile vision. At school, the air of perfection felt cold. Long hallways, posters for charity events, and the children of executives, politicians, and celebrities walked around radiating confidence. In the courtyard during recess, Lyra sat near the wall, trying to follow the conversation of two classmates. Their laughter, quick and broken, was a difficult maze to decode. One of them whispered, and the other said loudly, "Look, it's the girl with robot ears." The group laughed. Lyra lowered her head, clenching her fingers in her lap. The word weird echoed like a knife, even if half of it got lost in the surrounding noise. Noah, across the playground, was trying to play tag. The sun was beginning to dip behind the trees, creating thicker patches of shade. He stopped, confused. The figures of the kids turned into blurry shapes in motion. A ball hit his leg and rolled away. "Hey, pass it already!" a boy shouted. Noah crouched down, feeling around by seeing but missed the ball twice. Another kid mocked, "Is he blind or what?" Laughter filled the air. Noah, his face red, simply dropped the ball and ran back to the bench, his eyes brimming with tears. At the end of the day, Damien received a call from the school coordinator. In his home office, he paced in circles while speaking on speakerphone. "I understand. Yes, of course I care about their adjustment, but we can't have them going through embarrassment. The Kessler name is always under the media's eye." He hung up with a sigh, pinching the bridge of his nose. Selena entered at that moment, bringing a glass of water for Noah. Her posture, firm yet respectful, carried silent indignation. "They were humiliated today, weren't they?" she asked, her voice calm. Damien hesitated. "The school is demanding, Selena. Maybe it's not the right place. I could transfer them to a more private environment." Selena placed the glass on the table and looked him straight in the eye. Her light brown eyes sparkled with conviction. "Private? You want to hide them like they're some kind of mistake? Lyra doesn't need silence to be accepted." "Noah doesn't have to run from the shadows to play. They don't need to hide. They need to be seen." Damien held her gaze, jaw tight. "Do you think I don't try to protect my children? I just want to spare them from cruelty. Protecting isn't the same as hiding, Mr. Kessler. When you hide them, you're confirming to them that they're not like other kids, but they are. And they have the right to exist in any space." The silence was heavy. In the background, Noah was watching the two of them with wet eyes, and Lyra, leaning against the doorway, had her hands clenched as if trying to hold her own voice in. Damien turned his gaze toward the window, where the lights of Los Angeles were already turning on. The city pulsed, indifferent. But inside that house, a new conflict was being born, between the perfect image and the raw truth. Damien took a deep breath but didn't reply. Selena picked up the tray, without lowering her eyes. The weight of what she had said remained in the air like a spark ready to ignite what was coming. Damien spent the night restless after the argument with Selena. Her words echoed like a sentence. They don't need to hide. They need to be seen. The next morning, still early, he came downstairs to the living room. He wasn't wearing his usual suit, just a slightly wrinkled white shirt, and his expression carried fatigue. He found Selena sitting on the couch, a simple laptop open on her lap. Her straight, dark brown hair fell over her shoulders, and her eyes, focused on the screen, shone with rare intensity. Damien cleared his throat. "You don't usually use the morning for research." Selena lifted her face. There was firmness, but also hesitation. I needed to show you something that might change everything for Lyra and Noah. He raised an eyebrow, intrigued. Go on. She took a deep breath, like someone about to reveal a very personal part of herself. Before I started working as a maid, I was studying nursing. I was in my 3rd year of college, but my mother got seriously ill, and I had to drop out to take care of her. Hospitals were expensive, and I had to work full-time. Since then, I never stopped following research. I never stopped believing that science could change lives. Damien watched her in silence, surprised. Selena opened a folder on the computer and turned the screen toward him. Scientific articles and images appeared, full of graphs and technical English descriptions. She pointed. Here, hybrid cochlear implants combined with auditory therapy. They don't fully restore hearing, but they can significantly improve sound perception for people who still have residual hearing, like Lyra. Damien leaned in, his steel blue eyes scanning the details, jaw tense. Selena continued, her voice growing warmer. And here, a recent study in Boston. Gene therapy paired with smart augmented reality glasses. They enhance night vision and help with mild retinal dystrophies. Noah could benefit. It's not a miracle, but it's a real chance. He pressed his lips together tightly. You kept this all to yourself all this time? I never stopped dreaming of what I could have done as a nurse. But now, my dream is to help the children live the life they deserve. Damien stepped back, confused. The weight of the revelation was heavier than he expected. You work as a maid in my house, and still you talk like a specialist. Because it's not the uniform that defines a person's worth, she replied firmly. I didn't need a diploma to learn to see what your kids need. Silence filled the room like a wall. Damien moved closer, placed his hands on the back of the couch, and stared at the screen for a few more seconds. His voice came out low, almost a whisper. If this is real, if there's even a chance, you could change their lives. Selena held his gaze, unflinching. I'm not offering promises. I'm offering real hope. But it only depends on whether you're willing to see it. Damien closed his eyes for a moment, his breath growing heavier. It was like pride wrestling with the possibility of believing. When he opened them again, his expression had changed. Less arrogance, more humanity. Upstairs, Lyra's shy laughter echoed, followed by Noah's soft voice. The sound passed through the mansion's walls and hit Damien like a direct blow. He knew he could no longer ignore it. The afternoon after Selena's revelation, Damien couldn't focus during his meetings. Her words echoed in his mind like hammer strikes. I'm not offering promises. I'm offering concrete hope. Pride still made him hesitate, but when he looked at Lyra, quietly playing in the garden, her wavy blonde hair swaying in the wind, her green eyes lost among flowers she could barely hear, something inside him broke. Selena entered the garden holding a folder and said firmly, There's a university-affiliated lab that accepts tests with children who have hearing loss. I know the coordinator. He's well respected. I want to take Lyra there. Damien took a deep breath, skeptical, but Selena's expression left no room for doubt. If this is real, I'm going with you, he replied. The lab building was in a university district of Los Angeles, far from the luxury of the mansion. The walls were lined with glass, reflecting the golden afternoon light, and the hallways smelled of alcohol and fresh coffee. Lyra entered timidly, still wearing her light blue school uniform, clutching a notebook to her chest. Her eyes sought Selena like a safe harbor. A researcher in a white lab coat greeted them. "We have a prototype of a next-generation hearing aid. It uses artificial intelligence to filter background noise and amplify only primary voices. It's a game changer." Selena knelt in front of Lyra, holding her small hands. "Sweetheart, this will help you hear better at school. Trust me." The girl hesitated, bit her lip, and then slowly nodded. The researcher adjusted the small device behind Lyra's ear. Unlike the previous ones, it was light, almost invisible. The room fell silent for a few seconds. Then he asked gently, "Lyra, can you hear me?" The girl's eyes widened in surprise. "Yes, I heard you clearly," she replied, almost not believing it. Selena squeezed her hands tenderly. To test it in a noisy environment, the technician played a soft background noise, simulating overlapping voices, like in a crowded room. Selena leaned in and said, "Lyra, how about we go get ice cream after this?" The girl blinked a few times, expecting the usual delay or missed words. But for the first time, she didn't need anyone to repeat. She smiled wide, her green eyes welling up. "I understood everything. You said ice cream!" Damien, standing in the back with his arms crossed, was struggling with himself. His steel blue eyes started to shine, and he quickly turned his face away, but he couldn't hold back the tear that fell. In silence, he felt the weight of years of frustration collapse under the simple joy of his daughter. Lyra ran to him, emotional. "Dad, I can hear you now, even with noise." He knelt down, pulling her tight against his chest, his heart racing. "My angel, I never thought I'd see you smile like this." Selena, watching the scene, discreetly looked away, but couldn't stop a single tear from rolling down her cheek. The researcher was taking notes, but for Damien and Selena, the numbers and graphs didn't matter anymore. There was only the sight of a child who, for the first time, believed she could be part of the world without having to apologize for it. On the way home, the silence in the car wasn't uncomfortable, it was reverent. Lyra looked out the window, humming softly, something she rarely did. Damien, behind the wheel, glanced quickly at Selena in the rearview mirror. It was a different look, less distant, more grateful, more vulnerable. The car was still driving along the wide avenues of Los Angeles when Lyra, smiling in the back seat, was humming a soft tune. Damien, at the wheel, couldn't remember the last time he had seen his daughter so confident, but as his heart filled with hope for her, his eyes inevitably drifted to Noah, quiet beside his sister. The 6-year-old boy was watching the city's reflection in the windows, his deep blue eyes trying to hide his unease. He smiled at Lyra, but his silence spoke louder than words. That night, after dinner, Noah quietly called Selena into the hallway. "I'll be able to get better too, right?" His voice came out small, full of childlike fear. Selena knelt, bringing her light brown eyes level with his, and answered with tenderness, "You will, my love. But first, we need to understand what's really going on." Noah nodded, but the tremble in his hands revealed the weight he was carrying in secret. The following week, Selena convinced Damien to take him to a specialized hospital. The doctor's office was cold, overly bright, with white walls that seemed to swallow the space. Noah sat in a tall chair, his feet swinging in the air. The doctor, in a spotless lab coat and thin-rimmed glasses, was holding exam images on the screen. His expression was serious. "Mr. Kessler, the results confirm early-stage retinitis pigmentosa. It's a degenerative condition. It affects peripheral vision and dark adaptation. But for now, he still sees well up close. Damien clenched his fists over his knees. His breathing grew heavy. So, my son is going to lose his vision over time. The doctor hesitated before answering. The progression varies in each patient. There are supportive therapies, but there's no definitive cure yet. What we can do is pursue experimental treatments aimed at preserving what remains and, in some cases, recovering part of the lost visual function. Noah lowered his head, gripping the chair's arm tightly. The word lose cut through him like a sentence. Selena moved in immediately and placed a hand on his shoulder. Listen, Noah, this is not the end. There is hope. Damien raised his eyes, irritated by the uncertainty. What hope? You just said there's no cure. Selena took a deep breath, opening the folder she had brought. Inside were printed articles, photos of augmented reality glasses, and medical reports. There's a pioneering center in Boston. They're working with gene therapy combined with augmented reality training. The studies show promising results in cases like Noah's. Yes, it's experimental, but it's already changed the lives of some children. Damien stood up abruptly, pacing. Boston? You want me to take my son to another state and put him through tests that might fail? Selena looked at him, unwavering. These aren't blind trials. They're monitored protocols. They're not offering miracles, but they offer a real chance to preserve his vision and even recover some of what's lost in the dark. Noah raised his voice, shaky. Dad, I don't want to stay in the dark forever. The words landed like a blade in Damien's chest. He turned slowly, seeing his small son, tears running down his flushed cheeks, but standing tall, with courage. The hardened heart of the man shattered. Selena, eyes brimming, approached Damien. They need you to be strong, but they also need you to be open to believing. This isn't about your reputation or your fear. This is Noah's life. Damien sat down again, hiding his face in his hands. For the first time in years, he cried in front of someone. The silence was broken only by Noah's restrained breathing, as he clung to his sister, who, without fully understanding, held him tight. In that moment, Damien looked up at Selena. There was no more arrogance, only despair, and a spark of surrender. If this can give my son a chance, I'll go all the way. The house was wrapped in heavy silence after the doctor's visit. Damien entered his office, a large space with dark oak bookshelves and tall windows letting in the cold night light. He paced back and forth, his face tense, steel blue eyes filled with torment. Selena entered shortly after, carrying the folder with the Boston articles. Her long hair was down, and there was a calmness in her posture that contrasted with the storm building inside him. Damien, we can't waste time. The sooner Noah starts treatment, the better his chances of preserving his vision. I've already made preliminary contact with the Boston Center. He cut her off, his voice full of restrained anger. Enough, Selena. You don't understand. I already lost my wife because I believed in doctors who spoke of chances and hope. I'm not going to risk my kids just to hear the same empty promises. She took a deep breath, struggling to keep her tone calm. With all due respect, this is not the same thing. We're talking about real advancements, proven results. Lyra has already shown it's possible. Damien exploded, his voice echoing off the walls. You're just the maid. Don't tell me how to raise my kids. The words cut like a blade. Selena froze, her face hardened by pain. Her eyes welled with tears. but she didn't let a single one fall in front of him. With the dignity of someone who knows their worth, she closed the folder and placed it on the table. "I thought we were fighting for the same cause, for your children. But if my presence here is just a nuisance, then I don't have a place in this house anymore." She turned and walked toward the door. Her steps were steady, but her heart was beating out of rhythm. Damien, standing behind the desk, watched her with clenched fists, but couldn't utter anything beyond silence. That's when Lyra appeared in the hallway, her hearing aids already in place. Her green eyes were wide, taking in every fragment of the scene. "Selena, don't go," she said, running toward her. Noah, right behind, grabbed the maid's hand in desperation. "You can't leave. When you're here, I'm not different. I'm just me." Selena knelt down, embracing them both at once, her body trembling with the weight of her decision. "My loves, I just want what's best for you. But sometimes, to fight for those we love, we have to let go." Lyra was crying, shaking her head. "No! You understand us in a way no one else does. When you're here, I'm not ashamed of hearing differently," Noah added, between sobs. "When you're here, I'm not afraid of the dark." The children's words filled the air with a truth impossible to ignore. Damien, still in the office, felt the ground slip from under his feet. What he saw in front of him wasn't just a housekeeper. It was the woman who had restored his children's dignity. And yet his silence was more cruel than any scream. Selena stood up, her face marked by restrained tears. "I'll come back tomorrow to get my things." She walked to the door, her eyes briefly meeting Damien's, and left, leaving behind a palpable emptiness. Lyra and Noah turned to their father. "You can't let her go," they said in unison, their eyes wet, their small bodies trembling with fear. Damien, suffocated by his own pride and the trauma he still didn't know how to overcome, couldn't respond. He simply closed his eyes, knowing he had just opened an even deeper wound. The mansion felt bigger and colder that night. Selena was already gone, and the silence left behind wasn't peaceful, it was hollow. Damien walked through the dark hallways, brushing his fingers along the wooden walls, as if searching for support he couldn't find. Lyra and Noah's laughter echoed in his memory, along with the weight of their gaze when they begged Selena to stay. In his office, he opened the drawer where he kept a photo of his late wife. The picture showed a young woman with a soft smile and eyes full of life. He ran his thumb over the glass frame and murmured, "I promised to protect them, but maybe I confused protection with a prison." His chest burned with the knot of painful memories. His wife's death had taken more than love. It had taken away his courage to believe in new paths. From the bedroom, he heard Noah's muffled crying. He opened the door slowly and found the boy curled under the covers, his blue eyes filled with tears. "Dad, if Selena leaves, I'll never be able to see the dark as normal again. I need her." Damien sat on the edge of the bed, trying to hold back his own emotion. He ran his hand through his son's hair and replied with a shaky voice, "You're not going to lose anyone, son. I promise you won't." Lyra appeared in the doorway, her hearing aids on, and said firmly, "Selena makes us feel strong. She sees us the way Mom used to." Her words pierced through Damien like an arrow. He could no longer fight himself. He embraced them both at once, finally letting them see his tears. The next day, Damien took the car without telling anyone. He drove through the streets of Los Angeles until he reached the modest neighborhood where Selena lived. Her house was small, with faded paint, but there were flower pots on the porch that revealed care and affection. He parked, hesitated for a few seconds, and knocked on the door. Selena opened it, surprised, wearing simple weekend clothes. Her hair was down, and her brown eyes still carried the pain from the night before. "Mr. Kessler, what are you doing here?" He took a deep breath, searching for the strength to bring down the last wall of pride. "I came to ask for forgiveness. I was blinded by fear, by the trauma of losing my wife. I didn't want my children to take risks, but I ended up hurting you and them." Selena crossed her arms, trying to protect herself. "Words don't change what was said. I know my place in this story." Damien stepped forward, his voice cracking. "Your place is by their side, and by mine too. You're not a threat. You're the first person who saw my kids as real children, not as fragile heirs. I need you here, Selena. We need you." Her eyes filled with tears, but there was still resistance. "And what if everything goes wrong? What if the treatments don't work? Will you blame me again?" He shook his head, firm. "No. Because now I know the real mistake is not trying. If there's a chance, no matter how small, I want to walk with you to the end." Silence hung between them, heavy and full of meaning. Finally, Selena lowered her arms and took a deep breath. "If it's for your children, I'll come back. But it has to be for real, Damien. No walls, no hiding." He nodded, and for the first time in years, a faint smile escaped his lips. For real. In that moment, something shifted. Not just a medical decision, but a silent pact of hope. Damien and Selena's eyes met, and deep down, both of them knew this wasn't just about science or treatment. It was about having the courage to start again. The following days were marked by a new routine, where hope and patience walked side by side. Damien, still reserved but transformed by his decision to begin anew, closely followed every step of his children's progress. Selena, now fully integrated back into the home, was the bridge between science and affection, guiding Lyra and Noah as if carrying a fragile treasure capable of shining intensely. Lyra was the first to begin the process. On bright Los Angeles mornings, she attended speech therapy sessions at a specialized clinic. The room was cozy, with pastel-colored walls and educational toys scattered across the floor. The therapist spoke in a firm yet gentle tone, while Lyra practiced distinguishing sounds amid controlled background noise. At first, Lyra frowned, unsure, as if every word was an impossible puzzle. Selena always sat quietly in the back, encouraging her with a subtle smile. In one of the exercises, the therapist simulated a classroom environment, increasing background sounds, voices, laughter, hurried footsteps. Then she asked, "Lyra, who's speaking to you right now?" The girl closed her eyes for a moment, took a deep breath, and answered firmly, "You." For the first time, without asking for repetition, Selena brought her hands to her face, emotional, and Damien, watching from the doorway, let out a relieved sigh. Later, in the car, Lyra said proudly, "I'm not the girl who doesn't understand anymore. Now I can hear like everyone else." Damien held her hand, moved, and replied, "You've always been like everyone else. You just needed someone who believed in you." Meanwhile, Noah was beginning a much more delicate process. The first gene therapy injections were administered in a clinic in Boston. The environment was cold and clinical, but Selena knelt beside the boy, bringing him calm. "It'll only hurt a little, but it's to open windows of light inside your eyes," she said. Noah squeezed her hand tightly, trying to hold on to the courage she gave him. Damien, his heart tight, watched in silence, remembering the night he almost turned down this opportunity out of fear. The results didn't come right away. In the first few weeks, Noah cried in frustration. "I still can't see like the others. It's all still blurry." Selena hugged him, gently stroking his light brown hair. "Science isn't a miracle, Noah. It takes time, effort, and faith. Each day will bring a little more light." Months went by, and small changes began to appear. One night, in the mansion's backyard, Noah ran to Damien, excited. "Dad, I saw the neighbor's dog even in the dark." Damien knelt down, eyes filled with tears, and replied, "You have no idea how much that means to me, son." Selena watched from a distance, moved by the transformation she was witnessing. The peak came on a sunny afternoon. Noah asked for a bicycle. Damien hesitated, but Selena nodded firmly. Let him try. With his helmet on and small hands gripping the handlebars, Noah pedaled slowly down the street. At first, he wobbled, but soon found his balance. The wind tossed his hair, and a wide smile lit up his face. The neighborhood kids rode with him, not mocking, only cheering him on. Damien, standing on the sidewalk, felt his legs tremble. The tears came without warning. "My son, you're flying," he murmured. Lyra ran to Selena and hugged her tightly. "He did it, Selena. He did it." The maid simply closed her eyes, letting the emotion overflow in silence. That night, sitting together in the softly lit living room, Noah rested his head on his father's shoulder and said, "I'm not as scared of the dark anymore. Now I know I can beat it." Damien looked at Selena, and for the first time, there were no walls between them, only the recognition that, together, they were not just saving the children, but also saving themselves. The weeks of hope and progress began to crumble when the Kessler Mansion's gates were surrounded by cameras and microphones. News vans parked in front, and flashes went off like gunfire every time Damien appeared. Headlines spread across LMOSA. News sites and papers, billionaire CEO involved with family maid, and children used for image campaign, real story or PR stunt. Damien's pride, already broken by his love for his children, was now tested by society's cruel judgment. Inside the mansion, Selena was folding clothes in the children's room when she heard the voice of a TV anchor. Images showed Damien Kessler alongside the housemaid at medical appointments and in public outings. Is this love? Or a marketing strategy? She froze, holding a small shirt to her chest, her eyes full of tears. Lyra and Noah were in the living room, watching attentively. When Noah asked innocently, "Are they saying bad things about Selena?" Lyra, more aware, squeezed her brother's hand. They don't know who she really is. Damien entered shortly after, his face heavy, ripping off his tie in one sharp motion. Selena stared at him firmly. "You see what they've done? They turned everything into a spectacle. I don't want to be the reason your kids suffer even more." He stepped closer, his voice deep but shaky. "Don't say that. You're not the cause. You're the reason they have hope. But me, I don't know how to face the world out there." Noah ran over and hugged Selena's legs. "Don't let them talk like that, Dad. They don't know what she does for us." Damien closed his eyes, feeling the weight of the choice he had to make. Protect his public image, or protect the love that had quietly been growing. Then came the school's science fair. Lyra had signed up to present a simple project about sound waves and hearing aids. guided by her speech therapist. The auditorium was full of parents, teachers, and a few curious reporters still looking for scandal. Damien, in a flawless suit, sat beside Selena in the back of the room under whispered, judgmental glances. When it was Lyra's turn, she walked to the microphone. Her light blue uniform contrasted with the discreet hearing aids behind her ears. She trembled at first, then looked at Selena, who gave her an encouraging smile. Inspired, she began. "My name is Lyra Kessler. For a long time, I thought I was too different to be like other kids. I thought I'd never understand what people were saying, that I'd always be left out." The auditorium fell silent. She continued, her voice steady and emotional. "But my life changed because someone believed I could be more than a diagnosis. Someone who saw me not as a problem, but as a person. Today, I can hear better. Today, I can dream." A shiver passed through the room. Teachers and classmates began to applaud, and some parents discreetly wiped away tears. A reporter filmed everything, and within hours, the video had gone viral online. Social media exploded with comments. "The strength of a child is louder than any headline. Who is Selena Marlowe, the woman who changed the billionaire's kids' lives?" On the drive home, Damien looked at Selena in the passenger seat. The moonlight shone through the window, lighting up her brown eyes. He took a deep breath and said, "No more silence. I'm not hiding how I feel anymore. If the world wants to talk, let it talk. I'm going to stand by you in front of everyone." Selena looked away, holding back tears. "Are you sure, Damien? There's no turning back from this decision." He took her hand firmly. "I'm sure. Because hiding you would be denying everything we've lived, and denying my children's courage." Years passed like the turning pages of an intense book. The Kessler mansion no longer felt like a cold, distant castle, but a warm home filled with music, laughter, and stories. Lyra was now a teenager, her wavy blonde hair cascading over her shoulders, her nearly invisible hearing aids moving with her every step. She was active in school theater, rehearsing roles with passion. In one performance, playing a young lawyer, she stood before the crowd and declared, "Everyone deserves to be heard." The audience rose in applause, and Damien, seated next to Selena, wiped away tears of pride. Noah, in turn, had turned his struggle into strength. He wore state-of-the-art smart glasses that enhanced images in low-light environments. He ran across the adapted basketball courts with the same confidence as any boy his age. One afternoon, after a tough game, he threw himself into his father's arms, sweaty and smiling. "Did you see that, Dad? I made the shot without being afraid of the dark." Damien lifted him high in the air, laughing through tears. "You didn't just make the shot, son. You beat the impossible." Selena, standing in the bleachers, applauded with tearful eyes, knowing every effort had been worth it. The pinnacle of the family's transformation came during Damien and Selena's simple wedding ceremony. It was held in a cozy garden, lit by string lights that twinkled like stars. Selena wore an elegant yet modest ivory dress that highlighted her golden skin and brown eyes, full of emotion. Damien, in a dark suit, looked less like the cold man of before and more like someone reborn through love and faith in life. At the altar, when silence fell, it was the children who stole the moment. Lyra, now with a strong, clear voice, opened the vows. "Selena, you taught me I didn't have to hide. You believed I could be more than a diagnosis. And because of you, I can hear my own dreams. Noah, beside her, added, "And you showed me the dark isn't an enemy, but a place you can overcome with courage. Thank you for giving us back our confidence." Selena couldn't hold back the tears. Damien held her hand tightly and declared in front of everyone, "The true wealth in life isn't in fortune or power, but in having the courage to believe. Believe in science, in love, and in inclusion. That's the legacy I want to leave my children." The ceremony ended with laughter and hugs. Guests danced under the soft evening light, while Lyra and Noah ran through the garden, free, joyful, unafraid of who they were. Damien and Selena looked at each other like two people who had weathered storms and, together, found calm. The family story wasn't one of miracles, but of choices, of science advancing step by step, of love healing invisible wounds, of courage turning pain into strength. The final lesson echoed not only among them, but in everyone who witnessed their journey. True wealth doesn't lie in what you own, but in what you build, with faith, courage, and humanity. And so we come to the end of this story of love, resilience, and bravery. But now I want to hear from you. What did you think of this journey? Leave your rating from 0 to 10 in the comments so I can know how much this story touched your heart. If you enjoyed it, like this video, share it with someone special, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any upcoming stories. And before you go, I've already selected another moving story for you. Deeper, even more powerful, and sure to touch your soul. Don't miss it.